Hey, welcome back to Well, That's Interesting. The At Least It's Not About Spiders This Time edition. Today is episode 251. Boy band concert left teen with bubbles in her chest, and surgeon accidentally transplants tumor into his own hand. My friends, what better way to chase last week's monumental episode than finding ourselves back on Old Medical Oddities Lane? And not only are we back on the best street in town, but we just took it to the intersection of medical firsts, and I can't believe that can happen. Oh wait, yes I can, because I'm listening to this podcast. Yeah, that entire thing fit on one street sign. In the first half of the show, I'm going to need you to grab as much hair gel as you possibly can because we're dialing the time machine back just a smidge to the mid-2010s. There will be landing face first in a stadium filled with thousands upon thousands of emotionally charged, ravenous fans of the boy band One Direction. Yeah, the English-Irish pop boy band One Direction, whose name, according to the wiki, is often abbreviated to 1D. Now, for a band with 5 guys, I wouldn't think that's the best branding option, but you know what? Don't listen to me. One Direction, or Single D, did just fine. The group sold over 70 million records worldwide, accumulated a worth of over $1 billion, with a B, and they won nearly 200 awards. All of this made them one of the best-selling boy bands of all time, before going on a heartbreaking, indefinite hiatus in 2016. But before those tears were shed, just before the world kissed 1D goodbye, the band performed in Texas, and medical history was made. My friends, we're going to learn more facts about One Direction, and those facts are going to help give context as to how fucking popular they truly were. We're going to tap that excitement and find ourselves next to one fan who basically mainlined the exhilaration of thousands upon thousands of people into her own body, and she expelled it with such force it shattered a part of her. What I mean to say is that you can sing so loud and cheer with such zest until you pop. Yeah, pop music lived up to its name. We will get into not one, not two, but the 3 kinds of conditions she left the concert with after giving it her all. We will get into how these conditions have appeared in a patient before, but never all at the same time. It's truly amazing. Then after the break, I'm going to ask you to wash out all that hair gel and to throw on some flannel because we're hopping back into our time machine and landing in 1996. Here we're going to have an equally wild time with Dr. Gardner at the Institute of Pathology in Tübingen, Germany, because Dr. G just made a shocking diagnosis. A 53-year-old surgeon ended up with his 32-year-old patient's tumor after performing an operation. And when I say the same tumor, I mean it. It was genetically identical. And you may be asking, how in the holy fuck can this possibly be? How could this happen? If you ask that, great question. In this particular case, we have an answer. We will retrace the surgeon's steps. We will watch as a small mistake was made and how that small mistake ended up as a problem that grew into about the size of an inch. The lab results and the theories of how it ended up inside the surgeon's hand, I believe, are crazy, even for this kind of show. In the meantime, hi, I'm Jill Chacha, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the flock, my inoculated business goose. To begin, I'm going to need you all to form a line and get ready to bust a move that BuzzFeed ranked as the 16th most iconic boy band dance move of all time. A little shuffle called the elbow shuffle. With a skill level of only 1 out of 10 needed, I think it's safe to say you can do it, and I believe in you. To start, all you have to do is raise your arms to your chest, make a fist with one hand, and grab it with the other so your elbows are pointing out at either side. Perfect. When you're ready, take 2 steps to the left, with your left elbow pumping out and matching each step. When that's all done, take 2 steps to the right, this time with your right elbow jabbing into the air along with those steps. And that's it. There you have it, the elbow shuffle. See, I told you had it in you. Now, if you don't recall when this wee bit of choreography was birthed and thrown upon us, I don't blame you. It's hard to remember anything at any specific point in time anymore because we live in an age of progressive horrors, one marching after the other, just like these tiny steps we just made. But I can help. The elbow shuffle elbowed us in the face way the fuck back in 2011, when the music video belonging to the massive single One Thing was released by the equally massive boy band One Direction. Only a year prior, Niall Horan, Zayn Malik, Liam Payne, still a nobody Harry Styles, and Louis Tomlinson auditioned as solo candidates for the 2010 series of the British singing competition, The X Factor. And when you know it, they all failed to progress. Because if you think about it, one person doing something like the elbow shuffle alone on a dance floor is stupid as fuck. But if you add 4 other conventionally attractive guys at the same time, you have a goddamn hit on your hands. A thought like this probably entered the mind of singer Nicole Scherzinger, a guest judge at the time, and infamous longtime judge Simon Cowell, because both claim to have come up with the idea of forming the band. To this day, the spat has never been resolved, but it was Styles who came up with the name. As so convincingly stated in an interview with CBS Sunday Morning, quote, "I think it was me. I suggested it to everyone, and they were like, yeah, we like that. And then it kind of stuck. And that was what it was." End quote. And so, the newly minted One Direction, or 1D if you will, went on to place 3rd in the competition, but 1st in the United Kingdom's heart. By 2011, the group signed a deal with Columbia Records in North America, and boy howdy, now the rest of the world was primed to receive that D. The marketing, the singles, and of course the dance moves combined to form a sensation. According to Billboard magazine, a year later, in early 2012, during their first U.S. television appearance on The Today Show at Rockefeller Center, an estimated 15,000 fans gathered on the plaza. By August 2012, the group's record sales exceeded 8 million singles, 3 million albums, and 1 million DVDs. Do you remember those? Fucking crazy. By the end of 2012, they released a total of 2 albums, and it solidified them in the record books. The group became the first boy band in U.S. chart history to have 2 #1 albums in the same calendar year. Not the Beatles, not the Backstreet Boys, not NSYNC, but One Direction. By 2014, the group was so damn popular, they only booked stadiums for their tour, each with an average attendance of over 49,000 people. One of those was in Texas, and it would be a night that would also make the record books, specifically the medical books. So join me, will you, please, at the Children's Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, where a 16-year-old female patient was just admitted by her parents. By all outward appearances, our gal was like any other 16-year-old. However, on the inside, that was a radically different story. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the symptoms. Quote, "Instead of breathing a normal 12 to 16 times a minute, she was breathing 22 times a minute. So we knew something was a little off by that." End quote. Said, and I shit you not, emergency physician, philanthropist, YouTuber, TikToker, medical influencer, actor, singer, Dr. J. Max Slaughter Jr. to the BBC. First, yes, that is his real name. And 2, apparently, he's internet famous now, with like hundreds of thousands of followers on multiple platforms. And 3, if you drop whatever bullshit you're holding right now and pick up your phone to tap on today's post, you will see, according to his headshot, that he should also be in a boy band as well. Look at that hair. Amazing. Out of all the doctors in all the world, this is the guy who takes care of this patient. I, like you, did not expect it. But here we are. And you know what? It's really truly fitting. So the one and only Dr. Max Slaughter attended to our patient who, at the time of her admittance, was having trouble catching her breath. In proper fashion, a stethoscope was pressed against her chest, upon which a very unexpected result was heard. From the BBC interview, there was, quote, "a crunchy sound, like the sound of Rice Krispies," when you press on certain parts of her body. End quote. Yeah, you heard Dr. Mack right. When pressing on the patient, from underneath her skin, the sounds of a children's cereal were heard. Snap, crackle, and pop. Now, that is certainly alarming, but don't worry. The sounds weren't only coming from her chest. They were also made when touching her throat and neck. Needless to say, when your patient's body sounds like cereal mascots trying to burst through it, you should order a round of x-rays. So please, drop whatever non-crispy cereal you're holding right now and pick up your phone, swipe past the shaggy bangs of Dr. Slaughter, and behold, x-rays of our patient's throat and chest. I'll give you a second to find the arrows in each. Yeah, my delicious business goose, you can breathe a sigh of relief as no tiny cartoon character is chewing their way through a ribcage. Oh, no. What you're seeing here, as identified by the arrows, are wispy spots. And those spots just so happen to be air pockets. Yeah, air pockets outside the lungs. So how did they get there? I'm so glad you asked. As so wonderfully written by Mindy Weisberger of LiveScience.com, quote, the doctors determined that the patient's enthusiastic vocal appreciation of One Direction had caused a mild form of lung collapse, which forced air into tissues outside of her lungs. End quote. Oh my. And in sum, our patient screamed with such furious joy, a small tear in her lungs was created, leading to both lungs collapsing and an expulsion of air between the outside of her lungs and the inside of her ribcage. A condition called pneumothorax, if you want to get fancy. Now, this condition alone, caused under these circumstances, is wild in itself. But, girl, like the overachieving Dr. Slaughter and the groundbreaking band 1D, our patient was here to elbow shuffle her way into fame. Upon further examination, she was also diagnosed with pneumomediastinum, which is an even fancier way of saying air was located in her chest outside the ribcage. Essentially, this is what made her sound like bubble wrap, or cereal, whichever you prefer. And because you're so astute, and remember that the sounds also came from her neck as well, yes, you are right, that is an additional condition called pneumoretropharyngeum, or escaped air at the back of the throat. Our teen racked up not one, not two, but 3 medical cases from literally singing and screaming her lungs out. And if you think that is an achievement, you have no idea. The combination of these 3 diagnoses in one patient simultaneously hasn't been seen before in all of medical literature. And they were not prompted or exacerbated by any known pre-existing condition. The medical staff actually performed additional CT scans which showed no previous injuries, and although the patient did have type 1 diabetes, blood work showed normal levels. So they ruled out any tear to her respiratory tract due to labored breathing during a period of low blood sugar. So if you're curious as to when or fucking how these conditions do pop up, no pun intended, good old Slaughter told the BBC that this leakage of air, if you will, is, quote, typically caused by an inciting event, such as a severe asthma attack, heavy weightlifting, driving or military flying due to sudden changes in air pressure, end quote. But here, this case was simply caused by the power and elation of a teen girl. So please, give her a round of applause. It is really quite something. She was not flying a military plane. She was at a concert. And I did a little digging to find any other cases that could compare to this one, and I found only 2 instances where yelling or singing caused one of these injuries. And you need to sit down for this. Honorable mention goes out to a 2005 case report titled Spontaneous Retropharyngeal, I think I got that, and Cervical Emphysema, a Rare Singer's Injury. That's the title. And what happened was air escaped into the throat of an opera singer. And in a 2011 case from the journal Military Medicine titled Hooah, a case of pneumomediastinum in the military training environment, where, get this from the abstract, quote, a previously healthy 20-year-old male trainee developed chest pain, shortness of breath, and neck pain after repeatedly shouting "hooah" during a motivational squad competition. He was found to have developed a pneumomediastinum with soft tissue crepitus of the neck, which is the crunchy sound we all know and love. He had an uneventful recovery. End quote. Well, those are two truly fantastic cases, but they pale in comparison. And speaking of recovery, our teen was kept in hospital overnight for observation, with new x-rays performed in the morning. The conditions had not progressed, so she was cleared to go home. There, she was told to rest, as the air in her body would be reabsorbed, and that troublesome little tear would heal on its own. All must have gone well, as good old Dr. Mack told the BBC, quote, I never saw her again. I told her she'd be famous and get to go on Jimmy Fallon and meet One Direction, but she was too embarrassed. End quote. Yeah, dude, she would be embarrassed because she's a teen. And 2, she would have completely exploded. After the break, we're leaving lungs for hands and Dallas, Texas for Tübingen, Germany. But I assure you, the medical case we're going to cover is just as rare and wildly unique. An accident for the ages is next. Stay tuned.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. We are so back. And my friends, I want you to put on your finest thinking cap and all of your party hats, because we're heading on over to Tübingen, Germany, home to nearly 29,000 academic students and all that comes with it. Now, I gave the old Tübingen a Google, and being that evidence of human settlement has been found here as far back as the goddamn 12th century BCE, there are just too many fun facts to throw at you. So I'm going to stick with what Germany.travel has to say about this place today. And I assure you, it won't disappoint. Located in the southwest corner of the country, to no one's surprise, it contains some of the oldest universities in Europe, a town hall that was built in 1435, and an ornate astrological clock built in 1511 that is still operational, by the way. But what the town is truly proud of can be summed up in the opening paragraphs of its landing page. Quote, professors and wine growers, rebellious students and locals, Tübingen has not always been the conflict-free safe space that it is today. The home of poet Hölderlin, however, has found a way to strike a peaceful balance, between the traditional chimes of the town hall's carillon and the raucous guitars in the clubs. The town's charming shops, bars, and restaurants made it the perfect place to hang out or go for a stroll. The annual punt race around the Neckar River. Sorry about that. Neckar River guarantees plenty of riotous entertainment in Tübingen's event calendar. The waterfront, which features a Hölderlin Tower, one of the town's most famous landmarks and most photographed spots, is close by. End quote. Well, from punts to pints, this town knows how to have a good time. And it certainly has a knack for making history. So please, join me, will you, over the shoulder of Dr. Hermine Valera Gartner and her team, who are staring down at test results that have left the room silent. Let's get into it. The year is 1996. The Backstreet Boys are 3 years into their world domination. But 5 months before those results, in an operating room in Germany, an extremely serious surgery was taking place. A 53-year-old surgeon was performing an emergency removal of a malignant fibrous histocytoma within the abdomen of a 32-year-old man, a rare type of cancer that forms in soft tissue, like the limbs and, yes, the abdomen. Typically, it forms as a growing lump, which may cause pain and even potential neurological issues like numbness or tingling if it presses on nerves or joints. As reported by Alexa Lardiri of the Daily Mail, only 1,400 cases are diagnosed every year. Treatment typically involves surgical removal of the tumor and the surrounding tissue, followed by radiation therapy and sometimes chemotherapy. Put a pin in all of this. As for the patient today, though, well, that was the plan. Removal, followed by what therapies are needed. But sadly, not all things go to plan. While placing a drain in his patient, this seasoned doctor nicked the palm of his left hand, just below the middle finger. A small cut that only took seconds to disinfect and bandage, but an unexpected interruption nonetheless. Events then went from bad to the absolute worst, as the patient later died from complications after the procedure. It was a terrible end to a situation that was initially full of hope, or at least the medical staff thought it would be the end to this case. Over time, week after week, as the surgeon's superficial cut healed, underneath it there grew a small ball, first the size of a pea, then a marble, until 5 months later it expanded to just over 1 inch in diameter. According to the case study we're opening today, with the revealing title of Genetic Analysis of a Sarcoma Accidentally Transplanted from a Patient to a Surgeon, an extensive examination took place at a local hand specialist, one including laboratory tests that said, "Baby girl, you won't believe this, but that there lump is none other than a malignant fibrous histocytoma. The rare cancer we just spoke about moments ago, and what this doctor operated on months prior. The lump was removed successfully, and additional tests on the now doctor-turned-patient came back A-OK. So far, he was in the clear. But the physician, who had been treating both the previous cancer patient and now the doctor-turned-patient, couldn't help but think, what are the odds? What are the odds that this type of cancer ends up in the same exact place where an injury was sustained by the instrument used to remove the exact type of cancer? And is our surgeon really just one of the 1,400 cases where this naturally develops? Or is something else going on here? The only way to answer this question was to take a look at both tumors on a molecular and genetic level. So, after all the clickety-clack calculations were made, including giving a look-see for identical alternative forms of genes, aka mutations, located at the same place on the same chromosomes within both of these tumors, what did they find? Drumroll, please. Thank you in the back. If you're not sitting down, you should be. Are you ready? Okay. The tumors not only had similar cellular compositions, they were also genetically identical. Yeah, the tumor went from one person to the other. And you're probably thinking, dear God, how is that possible? And is this like a thing that happens on the reg? Well, those are great questions, and I have great news. For real. Statistically, this is one of the rarest cases we've ever featured on this show. The odds of a successful transplant, if you will, of a scant number of tumor cells from one human into another person and it growing into a mass is barely unheard of. So how did it happen here? Quote, normally, transplantation of allogenic tissue, aka genetically different tissue from one person to another, induces an immune response that leads to the rejection of the transplanted tissue. In the case of the surgeon, an intense inflammatory reaction developed in the tissue surrounding the tumor, but the tumor mass increased, suggesting an ineffective anti-tumor immune response, end quote, from the case study. My budding business goose. That's a fancy way of saying, oh, hey girl, You know how organ recipients take immunosuppressive drugs to make sure their body doesn't reject a transplanted organ? Well, similarly in this case, under usual circumstances, the doc's body or anyone else's should have identified these invading cells and destroyed them. But it didn't. And the cells were free to multiply. Cases like this are so extremely rare, there's basically zero statistics on how frequent, air quotes, transplanted cancer occurs. As explained by a 2013 report aptly called Cancer in the Transplant Recipient, the authors note, quote, "The incidence of any cancer transmission is so low that sporadic case reports are the main source of information. The low frequency and very variable stages of cancer mean that definitive risk calculations are impossible." End quote. So, this does not happen on the reg, and the odds may never be known. I will leave you with that. Thank you for listening, rating, subscribing, telling your friends about 1D, baby. Yeah, and how that 1D, that special 1D, and that girl's chest. Then wrap that conversation up with how cancer cells can multiply in someone else on a very, very rare occasion. And a bubbly thanks to the folks over at Airwave Media, the podcast network to which WTI belongs. If you love this show, and you do, you love the other podcasts in this family. And please, stay interesting.